In this video, Dr. Jordan Peterson explains what problems promiscuity causes.
You can be sure, one of the things that you can be virtually certain of is that whatever you're worried about happening terribly in the future, it will be something else that you're not worrying about that will actually cause the problem. And this could certainly be one of those things. Local parasite types and host defense systems will typically be involved in a co-evolutionary arms race. And so at any given time, a host's immunological defenses will be specialized to be most effective against local parasite species. To the extent that a host defense system is specialized locally, contact with outgroups will be associated with an increased risk of exposure to infectious diseases against which there is no a priori immunity. Okay, I'm going to read that again because you should think about it. To the extent that a host defense system is specialized locally, contact with outgroups will be associated with an increased risk of exposure to infectious diseases against which there is no a priori immunity. Black Plague, Europe, came in on ships, right? The Europeans started to spread out. They came back with the ships. The rats came off the ships. Poof, a third of the European population died. The relevant infection-avoiding behaviors, such as avoidance of strangers and high conscientiousness in, for example, food preparation, are assumed to arise from the operation of a behavioral immune system. The behavioral immune system comprises adaptive psychological response mechanisms that are sensitive to cues that might predict the presence of infectious pathogens and which respond with appropriate cognitive processing and affective reactions. Such a system, this is the next thing that you want to pay attention to. Such a system is likely to be oversensitive. The cost of a false positive, avoiding non-existent infection, is small relative to the possible cost, catching an avoidable infection. Okay, so you're walking through the grass and your snake detectors go off. The paraphobia of your eyes, the periphery, is specialized for the detection of things that might threaten you. And so you could say, well, you have snake detection systems in the periphery of your vision that are hypersensitive, because if you see a stick and you think snake and you jump up in the air, the cost is you jumped up in the air. So who cares that you misidentified the snake? But if there's a snake there and you don't see it and it bites you, then you're dead. So the logic is, why not set the systems that protect you to be hypersensitive, because the cost of the hypersensitivity is low compared to the cost of hyposensitivity, right? In social terms, an important component of the parasite stress hypothesis is that high levels of infection may lead to ethnocentrism, xenophobia, distrust of different others, and conformity, because such behaviors will reduce the likelihood of exposure to unfamiliar infections to which immunity has not been developed. Why is there strict sexual morality? Because promiscuity is a prime vector for disease transmission. That's one of the reasons. Conservatism as the social immune system. Disgust is considered to be one of the basic human emotions, defined by a strong revulsion and desire to withdraw from an eliciting stimulus or event. Physically, disgust is accompanied by a distinct facial expression involving constriction of the oral and nasal cavities. So that's the disgust face, which closes up your nose and your mouth so that things can't get in. Evolutionary models of disgust propose that this emotion evolved to help us avoid contaminated or harmful foods or other potential sources of disease, such as sexual contact. You know, there's lots of psychoanalytic theories about sexual shame and sexual disgust, but it's much more straightforward, as far as I'm concerned, to view it as a biological battle. There's approach systems and sexual arousal systems that are involved in moving you forward towards a sexual partner, but there's disgust systems that guard you against it, and those two things are mutually regulatory, and so you're basically stuck in the middle. It's half move forward and half be repelled, and that's partly also the balance of those two things is what helps you select a sexual partner, and people generally are quite selective about their sexual partners. So, and we say, well, why are you selective about your sexual partners? Well, there's the obvious practical reasons, but then there's the reasons that are more tightly associated with biological protection. And so, even though we don't like to think that way,